This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me, I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Only Friends podcast. We have a very special episode for you today. We are going to take a deep dive back into the old 2+2 forums, as well as a bunch of other archived information from way back in the early days of the poker boom, 2006 through 2008. We're going to give you a detailed account of the tragic Brandi Hawbaker story, where she kind of rose to infamy in the poker community and ultimately resulting in her taking her own life. But prior to getting to the dark undertones of that story, I want to kind of just introduce the crew as always and do a little catching up from the last 24 hours. First and foremost, we are joined today solo at the desk by Melissa, Poo Dog,
Look at that tight angle.
Schubert.
I think we gotta axe Landon.
Yep. Bye, Landon.
Sorry, Landon.
You got the good camera today.
I know. Look at that. They were shafting me with the MacBook 2009 camera for so long. Berkey was trying to make himself look better than me. Absolutely unbelievable.
I can't believe at this day and age that we're just accepting with Andre putting the beauty cam on, the beauty cam filter.
Wow.
I thought we were past that.
Wow.
Oh, you think? You wish. You wish this is natural beauty cam.
That's
an
right.
Entire makeup box.
I bring a makeup. I don't even have a glam team. This is how they're treating me. They don't even give me a glam
If
squad.
you were on Bravo, you'd have a glam squad.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going
Brian,
to
are
Bravo.
you volunteering to be part of the glam squad?
Yeah, I mean, I could learn a few things. Maybe.
He already knows. All he does is watch Bravo. He's watched the Glam Squad at work like, what, 1,000 times?
At least, yeah.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
I don't think
I could
Conrad
replicate
and
it,
Brian,
though.
Yeah, I think Conrad and Brian could definitely pull off being your hair and makeup artist without any problems whatsoever. I'm very confident that Conrad could thread your eyebrows.
Yeah, he gets his threaded enough that he knows how it
I can't thread
goes.
no eyebrows, but I get mine threaded, I will
Yeah.
say.
There you go.
Andre holding it down for us once again. We're going to try to work through that echo issue we had yesterday, but he's on it because he's the fucking best. And Christian, as always, my co-host, my PIC. What's good, man?
Yo, what's good, man? Pretty. This research for today's story got me a little messed up, man. Not gonna lie, but I'm glad we're leaving it for last.
I got swamped with this. I mean, I got sucked in hard. I was supposed to go to the gym this morning. I was like, I can't make it. I'm too engulfed. The first thing I did was I woke up and I started deep diving right where I left off last night, and I just got sucked right in.
Bro, I was texting people like, "Do you know about this?" And they were like, "Nah." I was like, "What the fuck?" But
I got mostly the Cliff Notes, and the Cliff Notes were wild.
But
And crazy. So the whole entire story, I'm actually excited to hear it myself.
But yeah, so Berkey, how was your first day in Pennsylvania? Playing.
It's exhausting. I forgot how tiring streaming is, especially after doing a 2-hour podcast right before. But it's good. The client's pretty nice. It's the Party Poker software, which is relatively clean. Not a ton of traffic, but we were able to get a couple games off. Somehow there was no cash game above 2 cent, 4 cent running until I sat in quarter 50 and 1-2, and then we were just full for 5 hours. I don't know what that says.
They must think very highly of you in Pennsylvania.
I mean,
Nah, man, it's
they got
cool.
me in the 1-2 streets.
Did you keep up with any of the Poker Go stuff?
So I saw a pretty hilarious thread yesterday posted by Pads that was kind of demonstrating the final table of the USPO between Foxen and Chidwick.
Yeah.
Which
Bro, that was the
for those who
greatest.
don't follow Pads.
That was the greatest thread, period. Like, I was just like, I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay. But then it kept going. And then I just like handed my phone over to someone and I was like, look at this. And they were like, wow, this is incredible. So tell the people what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so it's a pretty funny idea for a thread. Basically, Chidwick was going through, and every time the two of them played a pot together, obviously they just engaged in a real bromance stare off.
Loving
And
embrace.
he was scoring it round by round as though it was a boxing match on like who won the stare off competition. Based on how the hand played, based on mannerisms, who blinked first. There was a point where Chidwick was all in and just closed his eyes. And there's a shot of Foxen's like eyes bugging out of his head as a reaction.
One of the best
really,
ones, Burke. One of the best ones is
this one right here.
That's awesome right there.
Currently changed to eyes fully closed whilst all in. If only he could see Foxen's expression. Foxen with brutal spot.
One of the best ones that I saw where like I think Foxen won a round was when Foxen used a time bank without ever looking at the flop. He was just straight up staring at Chidwick, and he had to use a timer. He threw a time bank without ever looking at the flop.
No. That was a troll.
Oh, it was a troll? It would have been better if it was true. That's awesome. Like, just straight stare somebody down, throw the time bank in, you never looked at the flop. What?
I mean, thank God for time banks. Who knows how long these stares would engage before.
Did you see the one where
look.
I think I sent it in our private chat where it was like someone created a love song of them looking at each other?
Yeah, that was Lappin. It was like a love montage of them staring at each other.
I mean, it's pretty awesome. And then obviously the meme of like find someone that looks at you the way Foxen looks at Chidwick.
Yeah.
Like, some shit like that. But there was a lot of
Foxen
people.
got the last laugh.
Yeah, Foxen did win the event. Congrats to Foxen, good friend of mine. But there was a lot of people saying, this is why poker sucks. Like, we don't like this, all this stuff. And Foxen actually responded and he said, well, I don't look at people like this level 1 of a tournament recreational players.
Yeah.
But he did say that he thinks it brings in higher EV for him. Like, this is actually something that affects people's play. And I'm assuming that Chidwick feels the same way because he's engaging in it as well.
So is the stare to like make the other person feel nervous, or is it to get reads, or both?
Probably both.
Yeah.
It's probably like an intimidation
I've
tactic.
never done a stare type thing. I feel like if I were to try to do it, I would just look like awkward as hell.
I think it would be much more effective on the people he doesn't do it on, right? Recreational players and people
but he doesn't
like less experience. Like when he does it to Chadwick, isn't like them doing it to each other. They kind of just like know that each one is, what they're doing, and like they already know what they're going to be. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it would affect the other person. But they're like trying to
just did it to
one
look
up
cool
each
in
other
photos.
with the stares. Well, also, the other argument was they're kind of going at it in a way. Like they're staring each other down. They're battling, and they were saying, well, is that better or worse than the heyday of poker when like Durr would just like stare blanket into this board and just like bet like this, like, and they're like, wouldn't you rather see this where like people are kind of battling it out, staring at each other, like there's actually like a little bit of a rivalry there.
When people are complaining about it, what would they like to see? Would they like to see them smiling? Like, that would be creepier if someone was smiling at you while you're making a decision. Like, I don't know what they want. It's sort of like,
I think they want a marriage between Helmuth and Negreanu.
Okay.
Of like, they want the emotion of Helmuth and they want the happiness-go-lucky of Daniel Negreanu, right?
But Negreanu is like, he's, happy-go-lucky, but he's getting information through his talking and stuff. So that's like a more subtle way of
right, and they
edging.
feel like that's skill, and they feel like this is just like.
I think that's more effective.
I think it is too.
Like, honestly, the whole Chadwick Foxen thing, it seemed a little silly to me. The way they were just staring at each other, like every hand. Like, it just, if that was me sitting there and I was one of them, I'd just start laughing.
Yeah, I know.
I wouldn't be able to keep a straight face. I'm like, dude, what are you looking at?
But if they both, I mean,
like, it wouldn't intimidate me.
We haven't heard this from Chidwick, but we did hear from Fox say yesterday that he thinks this derives EV. Period.
Yeah, no, I mean,
So like,
I believe him when he says that, for sure.
Have you guys seen the hand from, there's a Triton cash game hand. I think it's a cash game. And Jungle Man and Ike are playing a hand. And then Jungle Man's staring at Ike. And then he just goes.
Right, exactly. That's what I would do. Right, I would do something like that. I'd just be like,
He just
okay,
sticks his
just
tongue
like,
out.
let's just make a joke of
So
this.
funny.
so what do we think about it? I mean, this is not the first stare down, right? We've seen,
No, of course.
we've seen, and then I did see, like, people say they showed a photo of like Durr and Ivy, like staring each other down in a hand on Poker After Dark, similar to the Fox and Chidwick. So it's not the first time, right?
Right. Now, Ben Lamb is
Well,
kind of like known for this, for the Ben Lamb stare, you know.
Yeah, people do. So what do we think about the stare down? Is this something that, like, do we have any thoughts at
Fine.
all?
I
Do we
mean-
think it was a good thing? Do we think it was like
Who gives
tacky?
I
a
don't care. I
fuck?
think it's entertaining. I think people
Conrad has a
associate that sort of stare with poker a little bit to begin with, and I think I do notice, like, it definitely is, because I've been at like a 1-3 table and I'll be in like the big blind, and then the guy in the cutoff is just like staring me down to decide if he wants to open or not. It's just like, I'm like, okay, just choose one. But I think that it's something people will try to like emulate and fail. But
Yeah,
I
it's
just
definitely
think
going to
it's
get
like-
emulated.
I just think it's overall pretty alienating. So going back to the comparison to Negreanu, like, he's very gregarious, and that makes people relax, which is generally going to get you more truthful information, I guess. Of course, staring somebody down is going to intimidate them, and they're likely to crack under that pressure. But you're also talking about relative amateurs. I know Chance does this a lot, and I was kind of astonished at how unrelenting he was on like day 4, day 5 of the main event, where I played with him on both days, and like he was just staring, like he was burning a hole through this woman who has maybe played like 10 events in her life.
Well, they're really
and-
good friends, Burke. Like the Fox Chance. Like,
No. Oh yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. But I'm just saying, like, though there might be an additional layer of EV there, I think it comes with a pretty big cost when you're talking about a situation like that, where it's the biggest event this woman will probably ever play. It's like one of her first, if not the first 10K buy-in she's ever played. She's at a ridiculously killer table already to begin with Kuhn and Chance and myself and 6 other pros. And now she has to like somehow find a way to not only play and survive, but also to deal with a hole being burned through her by like one of the best players at the table.
I think there
to me,
was
it's
a
just, like-
head.
Well, I was just gonna say it's just too jarring.
Yeah. I think there was a heads up between, I think it was Chidwick and Chrissy B, where they asked her afterwards, like, how to deal with the stare and how he's really good at the live reads and everything. And she said she just looked at the center of the table and just like counted her breaths. Like, I think that
Yep.
dealing with the pressure that people put on you is part of the game live. So
No, I agree with that.
so we're okay with
I
it
guess
pro
I'm-
on pro is what we're saying. Like pro on pro, it's all good.
I mean, I'm relatively indifferent. Like, if you're talking about the overall benefits versus cost, I think the overall benefit to being gregarious over being an intimidating force is just a net positive for not only yourself, but also the collective. Like, the best games you find yourself in will be loose, talkative ones, not stare-offs. Those are going to be some of the worst games you play. But we're also talking about a USPO where the final table is a bunch of killers. So I don't really care what they do there. And I think Pads did a great job of making light of it and turning it into a bit of a meme, which now does make it it makes a non-story a story, basically.
Yeah, I agree with that. There was a little bit of Garrett. Someone took a shot at Garrett, showed a photo of him staring at someone, and he made it a point to say that, "Don't
He's
bring me into
very-
this."
yeah, he's very strong
Like I
stance.
don't do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a non-story, but it was just funny to watch it go down.
I love seeing stuff like that. I don't know. I think it's entertaining. It's just, if they were just playing normal and not doing anything, it'd be kind of way more boring.
Yeah.
At least it gives you something to like make memes out of.
Oh man, that's funny.
It's good content for sure. I would love to see like some sort of bit where they just have a staring competition, like for 5K.
Like have Poker Go host the Chidwick Foxen staring contest.
Yeah.
That would be really funny.
5K entry fee.
I might tune in.
I'm-
They have to eat. They
I'm
have to eat
definitely
like
good for that.
jalapenos while they stare at each other.
They have to like
Eat jalapenos
or like
stare
try
at
and make
other.
each other laugh type of thing. That would be really funny.
Have you ever watched those videos on YouTube? They're fucking hilarious.
They're so funny. Yeah.
Guys will like tell each other dad jokes, and the goal will be to like not laugh, and usually they'll have like water in their mouth or something like that. It's such a hilarious time to watch this go back and forth with one another.
So let's talk about online poker, Burke. You threw us a story about GG and WSOP, and most of us were just like, "One America," and so talk to us about that. You flying up to Canada?
No. So this is news for a reason that I don't think is necessarily obvious to those who saw. GG was already operating in Canada.
Mhm.
What's happening is Toronto is segregating themselves from the rest of Canada. So this is actually a bit of a step backward for online poker in Canada as a whole, at least as I understand it. I could be getting some of the details incorrect, or maybe Ontario is just so big that it doesn't really matter. But as far as I understand, they're going from being a part of rest of world to now just being isolated to exactly the Toronto market. And as far as I understand, like Quebec and other markets are either still going to be a part of rest of world or not in the GG player pool at all.
That sounds awful.
So what's happening? Well, it's a big deal for regulated poker for America, but it's kind of a step in the wrong direction, I think, for rest of world. If that makes sense.
Yeah, this is like similar to Turkey. This is like similar to like what happened with Italy, with like Poker Stars, where they just like insulated themselves.
Except you're not talking about a country now.
Right.
You're talking about a
straight up city.
province.
I mean, it's sort of like what
So this is a lot.
we do. Nevada does.
Exactly. It's a lot closer to what we do,
Mhm.
which is the opposite of what we want. We're trying to get to intrastate gambling
Right.
instead of state by state legislation. We want to
Yeah.
try to get it where the entire nation is in the same player
Imagine.
pool.
It does feel like
Imagine
a
our
step
pools
backwards,
being
unless GG has
combined.
like some big picture plans of like including Toronto in their American plan,
Yeah.
similar to
Would
like
be
how
really weird.
like NBA and MLB. Like no, like you're part of America.
Well, I think that's the big picture end game that benefits all parties involved is they find a way to now unite the Toronto player pool with
Mhm.
already existing legalized player pools that WSOP's in, such as Nevada, New Jersey,
Yeah,
Michigan, Pennsylvania.
yeah, that's kind of what I feel like that's the path that I'm seeing if I'm GG.
Yeah.
Take it straight out of the NBA and MLB and just include Toronto into the American market.
Yeah. I mean, it's big news for us because if legislation's moving this way in any way, shape, or form, obviously that's pretty massive. But for Canada itself, now maybe it's big news for them too. Like maybe they would rather be a part of legalized
Yeah,
United States poker than rest of world.
yeah, Maple.
In crypto news, Bitcoin is popping.
Define popping.
44.
44. Don't get excited till it gets to 46. That's the
Is that
number,
the
there.
number?
All the TA people are
That's a
saying.
pop.
Ooh, a dildo.
That's
Yeah.
whoa.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh.
all right.
It had resistance at 46, so they think if it
Yeah.
gets past 46, it could take
The
off.
Straight to
market is
100.
feeling-
Straight to 100
Straight
by
to
the end
1
of
million.
2022.
All right, Berkey. So let's
need
get
to
to
get to a
let's get to some of the real juice.
I want the tea.
All
I
right.
have some tea today.
Time to introduce the tea.
Wait, I like the.
Sorry,
one
I
you
don't
had
know
the
what's-
background.
Background.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
I
know
like
what's
the
less
background.
You got
distracting.
ghosts back there or something.
Well, I don't know what's less distracting, me going in and out of focus or me just blurring the background.
No. The background
Because you're still
blurred
going in
is
and out of
worse.
focus, but it's blurred back there.
Nah, the non-blurred is better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I'll change it back.
Or just make
all
it
right.
a bunch of pubes in the back.
Jesus Christ.
That'd
Speaking
No, but
of
let's get serious. No, let's get serious for a second because like this story is like pretty wild, and I want Berkey to tell it how he wants to tell it, and then we'll all chime in accordingly.
Okay. So back in 2006, what I guess like the first part of the picture that I want to paint is how different the landscape was in 2006 compared to today. So social media by and large didn't really exist. Facebook was a brand new operation. MySpace was still popular, and Twitter, as we know it, didn't exist. Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of the communication for those of us who came up during that time was done through forums, specifically the Pocket Fives forum and 2+2. Now, sometime I believe in 05 or 06, a secondary forum cropped up called Neverwin Poker, and it was founded by Dustin Neverwin Wolf and Todd Dandriff. I always mispronounce his last name. Is it Whiteless? Or Whittles? It's Whittles. Yeah, who now is now he owns the Poker Fraud radio show and the Poker Fraud forum. I'm painting that whole picture because this entire story unfolds on the pages of these forums, and since then, it's all largely been eradicated from the internet. So 2+2 deleted the vast majority of the threads, especially anything implicating Sklansky. And Neverwin Poker actually sold to Poker News. So that also kind of disappeared into the ether. I'm pretty sure all of the past posts were lost. Am I frozen?
Yeah,
You're a little frozen.
You using McDonald's internet today?
No, I'm wired.
Oh.
There we go. Maybe not.
All right, continue. So
basically, finding all of this information is not easy, right? You got to do a lot of searching, but huge shout out to everybody who was blogging back in the day, which was a very popular medium for sharing news, that pretty much copy and pasted all of these posts prior to them being deleted. So there are accounts to basically everything that happened throughout the course of the year and a half or so that Brandi Hawbaker was in the public eye. And we'll leave links to all of those posts in the show notes below for anybody who wants to do their own research or corroborate anything that we say here today. I want to get it out in the open that this was just a thing that I researched myself. I wasn't involved in any of this back in that time. I was still very young. 2006, I had like 15K to my name, was still in Pittsburgh grinding underground games. So I was very far removed from WPT winners and authors like Sklansky and people that were grinding 10Ks. So I'm basically just reporting what I was able to find, not really giving any firsthand accounts or anything of that nature. With all that said, I kind of want to demonstrate who Brandi was to the community, at least as far as we know. She came onto the scene mid to late 2006, and effectively the first posts I could find from her were just like interactions between her and Sklansky on 2+2, where she was asking strategy questions. So she seemed to just be a part of like, you know, the young startup online community, was probably like grinding small stakes, trying to make a name for herself, and was able to actually engage with people who were a lot further along than she was. From there, as far as I could follow, she had a little bit of success and was being offered backing deals, basically by a variety of guys. She didn't really go into detail as far as I could tell from her post. But none of them were appealing to her for whatever reason. One, she claimed the guy wanted a 2-year deal and was creepy about it. But anyway, this all led her to meeting Captain Tom Franklin, who, if you're unfamiliar with, was a World Series bracelet winner, or is a World Series bracelet winner. He was, as you can see, a part of Doyle's room. Just basically the old-timiest of old-timey regs. And he took a liking to her, I don't know if he approached her or she approached him, but in any event, he offered her a level of mentorship and backing, and he even went out of his way, according to the post that I read, to state that they would be on a very rigid schedule where they met at certain times because he didn't want people getting the wrong idea, old guy, young, attractive girl, et cetera, et cetera. So by her account, everything went well for the first month or so, until they eventually went on a trip together to Canada and then ultimately Foxwoods. Somewhere along the duration of that trip, they were staying in the same hotel room, and I guess as she was asleep, allegedly he climbed into bed with her naked, placed his penis on her back, and tried to initiate some sort of sexual activity or whatever. By her account, she was traumatized, slept in the bathroom using towels as blankets, and basically didn't know what to do from there. One detail I forgot to mention was that upon entering in this backing arrangement, she said she had $12K of a bankroll, and he kind of demanded that she forfeit that to him to hold for safekeeping.
Yeah.
So he's basically holding her net worth in his hand, and put himself in an obvious position of power. And as far as I could tell, there was no denial of this. I didn't find a single account of Tom kind of like stepping up to his own defense.
And she was stranded out there, right, Berkey? She was stranded out there at the Foxwoods.
So ultimately, that's what it came down to. There's a little bit more to the story prior to that, but effectively, somewhere between the penis incident and going to Foxwoods, Tom started to disengage with her more, and he seemed to be, I don't know if he was less flush or whatever the case may be, but he seemed to tighten the purse strings with her. Enter this young woman named Amanda, who was 22, that he was claiming was his daughter. Basically, by Brandi's account, Amanda had told her that she had met Tom 2 years ago. He promised her a high position in his company, which apparently didn't exist. And she had basically been getting leveraged for sex ever since, became an alcoholic because of it.
Wait, and he was saying this was his daughter?
He was telling everybody publicly that it was his daughter, yeah. He was A, married at the time, and B, 30 plus years her senior, maybe more. But again, this is only corroborated by Brandi, and I believe Witless also made a post saying that he saw this girl with Tom at the World Series later in that year. So I guess they all had a collective suite together at Foxwoods, and again, according to Brandi's account, he was very irate because she was sick or whatever the case may be, and wasn't offering any sexual favors. So the next night, he and his quote-unquote daughter Amanda got a room together alone. And from there, basically, Captain Tom disengaged with Brandi altogether. Now, obviously, there are two sides to this story, and we're only hearing one account of it. So who knows how much of those details are true? But I would imagine it's greater than 0 and less than 100. All of this then leads into the next event in the timeline, which is her meeting Mark Newhouse. He was fresh on the scene at that point, right off of a WPT victory for $1.2 million. I believe it was at the Borgata.
Yeah.
And was basically like one of poker's young rising stars. I believe he played under New Hizzle Online. She met him at Foxwoods, kind of told him the whole sob story, and the fact that she had no way home. He bought her a plane ticket back to, I think it was Vegas at the time. And as best I could tell by both of their posts, they were seeing each other in some capacity, but Brandi claimed that they never slept together, and Mark didn't really insinuate that they had either. It was just clear that they had some sort of like friendship or relationship. Basically, he made it very abundantly clear that he kind of took pity on her and wanted to do right by her, or at least felt bad enough for her that he wanted to help. And she also, even after they had a big falling out, continued to post very nice things about Mark. Basically, everybody who commented on the new house element of this story said that he's a kid with a heart of gold who was in a position to be taken advantage of. So that kind of leads into the next incident. They took a trip together to LA, and Mark was grinding live while attempting to teach Brandi sit and goes. And I guess he was allowing her to play on his PokerStars account without any supervision. What that ultimately led to was her busting his account. By his account, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40K. She claimed it was a lot less, and she also claimed that he was overseeing the entire process. But from everything I read, it seems like her side's exaggerated, and he has a lot of alibis saying that he was playing live the majority of that time, which means that it's just very probable that like she was unsupervised or whatever the case may be. In any event, even after all that happened, he still didn't really cut ties with her. Like it seemed like he took pity on her and he bought the sob story or whatever the case may be. This ultimately led to them driving back to Vegas. There was a lot of, I guess, unimportant details that she posted where they were interacting with Neverwin along the same timeline, I think. But it's largely irrelevant. He doesn't play much of a role in this story. In any event, she kind of keeps telling him more about herself, and it seems as though he's like pretty disgusted and just kind of chalks her up to being a bit of a scandalous individual who's looking to take advantage of people for her own personal gain. Ultimately cuts ties with her and then begins to basically publicly defame her in hopes of either getting his money back or I guess like working out some sort of plan where she can make right by him. That takes us into early-ish 2007, so like spring 2007, let's call it. Like
Berkey, was there an event? And I was reading something where there was an event with Newhouse in a bathroom potentially of her.
Oh, I can't believe I glossed over that.
Yeah,
Jesus.
that's don't worry. I got your back.
Yeah, what a big detail. Yeah, thanks. Good catch. So while they were in LA, when he came up from the room that night, he found that or she was already in bed or whatever. Like he had just lost a pal playing live, and he was exhausted. Found that she was already in bed, and he woke her to see that she had a giant cut in her leg, and then he realized she cuts herself when she's depressed or whatever the case may be. He goes in the bathroom, and allegedly she wrote "Someday I will fly," or "I will fly one day" on the bathroom wall in blood. So that kind of like led to the final fallout where they drove back to Vegas, parted ways. And I believe even after that, he like still put her in a satellite. But there's kind of like a funny hearsay story involved with that. So his account was they were driving back to Vegas, and she said that I can't remember who she was talking about, but basically somebody offered her the staking for a satellite for, I think it was like Festel Lago maybe, if she would exchange anal sex for it. And her reason for telling the story to Mark was she said that she would rather do it with him than this other guy. And he's like, I lost all respect for her there, yada, yada, yada. But then he ends the thread with, but I put her in the satellite. And it's just kind of like, what do you mean?
Right.
What are you talking about
of
here?
Of course.
So, there's a little bit of an inference there that something happened, but she later set the record straight and said that she only gave him a hand. I don't know, man. Like,
okay.
This is all weird to me. But she claimed she gave him a handy and got a satellite ticket in return, or maybe she was talking about the other guy. It's unclear because all those radio shows that she appeared on, all the videos, everything like that was all taken down.
Okay.
So now we get to current day. We're in like the spring of 2007. It seems as though she has fallen on hard times. Allegedly, she had started stripping at the Rhino. From there, she was still interacting with a lot of poker personalities, everybody from Dutch Boyd to Mycon to the previous guys we were talking about, like Neverwin and Mark Newhouse. At this point, enter the Sklansky portion of the story. And I guess maybe prior to that, what I should say is I think she started dating somebody around this time named Brandon. It's difficult to tell like what the timeline was that they dated, but as far as I can tell, he was the last relationship she had prior to her suicide.
Brandon was definitely in the picture for sure. Brandon was in
Yeah,
the
and
picture somehow.
Yeah, right.
He's not that
and there's
relevant.
well, it's tough to give him relevance because we don't know who he is.
Right.
So all we know is that his name is Brandon and his online name was
P something.
Yeah. It was like
Pimp Rexel.
Pimp Rexel or something. Yeah, Pimp Rexel. That's right. But I couldn't find any pictures to marry that or any last names or anything along those lines. So all we know of him is his own account. It seems as though he was a pit boss when he first met Brandi. I think he met her while she was stripping at the Rhino. I believe he said that. And
shout out to the Rhino.
It seemed as though he threw a lot of money at her to try to aid in her problems and make things go away. He said while he was working a shift one day as a pit boss, he decided to run her name and discovered that there were numerous accounts of her being 86 for solicitation. So it seems as though she was exchanging sex for money at some point along the way. He also claimed that she was physically violent towards him, and it ultimately resulted in her totally rugging his entire life. Basically, they had a fight, he left, and she sold every earthly possession that he had out of his apartment before ultimately running to LA and then shortly thereafter committing suicide. Now, the big chunk that falls in the middle here that we're kind of leaving out is former 2+2 owner and author of The Theory of Poker, David Sklansky. And I have to tell you, this is where the story takes a wild sharp turn, in my opinion. And I think the biggest reason why I think it's so insane to me is based on how curt he was about, I guess, making passes at this girl and like trying to leverage his position of power in exchange for sex. Like he literally made no bones about the fact that he was very interested in her and was totally willing to exchange in a tit for tat type of relationship. So as far as both accounts go, Sklansky and sorry, her name's slipping my mind. Brandi. Yeah. They both say that they met sometime around the summer of 2007. At this point, she had been blowing up the 2+2 forum. Between all of the drama with her current boyfriend Brandon, her ex-boyfriend Mark, as well as the Tom Franklin story, which was the first post that she had put up that caught fire. It had like 600,000 hits in a couple of months, well over 1 million by the time that they ultimately took it down. And I think I gave you that post, Andre, if I recall. I think we might have glossed over it during, or maybe you did put it up and I just wasn't paying attention. But anyway, that whole account will be linked in the show notes below. You guys are welcome to read it for yourself. That post apparently just blew up. 2+2 ultimately did decide to remove it, but Sklansky was very aware of it. And according to his account, he was made aware of it because of the traction it was generating his site, but it had 2,000 pages to it, and he was never going to read the replies. So he basically said that he had no idea of the Newhouse scandal, and he was only briefly aware of Brandi based on this post and her allegations against Captain Tom. So when he finally met her. His account says that he thought it would be funny if they would stage photos together. Other accounts, I believe both Brandi and Dandruff, both posted that these stage photos were pornographic in nature. So I don't know what that entails. I don't know if it was both of them or if she just sent him nudes. Whatever the case may be, they came to an agreement to exchange these photos for a few hours of coaching. Shortly thereafter, I guess Sklansky took a liking to her and believed in her ability to play. So he entered in a mentorship with her, exchanging publicity for 2+2 and himself in exchange for more coaching hours. So according to him, he was basically trying to leverage her celebrity. He wanted her to mention that he was her coach in interviews and things of that nature. And he was basically trying to invest a small amount with a big payoff should she be able to live up to her potential.
Are we gonna talk about like?
Somewhere in between.
I mean, are we gonna talk about the like Sklansky's taste in these photos, or?
I mean,
like,
that's way, 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 way down the line.
all right,
That
cool.
doesn't happen for.
No, I'm just
another
excited for
year.
it.
So, I guess it would be. I guess it would be like January of 2008 now. Shit really starts to hit the fan. At this point, by all accounts, Brandi is busted and has no means to an end. This is after Brandon exposes her for emptying out his apartment and selling all of his worldly possessions. It seems as though she's in LA, degenning off whatever she was able to acquire for that money. And at that point, she re-engages with Sklansky. And he seems to welcome it because he basically made no bones about it. There was a post that he made. Actually, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Prior to that, she had leaked. Actually, I'm not sure if it's prior to her re-engaging with him or not, but as far as the timeline is concerned, the next meaningful event was she began to leak information about David based off of the fact that Mason Melmuth had decided to delete her post at 2+2. So she went on a tirade trying to leverage the information that she had on Sklansky in order to get her post reinstated and her account unbanned. When that failed, I think she leaked them to Mycon, who ultimately posted them at Neverwin Poker Forum. And the first of which was exposing Sklansky's significant other, who was a very young 20-something that suffered from disabilities.
She was
Physical
mentally
and
disabled
mental.
based on the fact that she was inbred with her parents being brother and sister.
Yeah, so she was a byproduct of incest, and apparently she was like blind in one eye, lacked motor skills in maybe her left side or something along those lines, and by all accounts was like 35 years his junior. So she threatened to release that, and I guess ultimately Sklansky just released the information himself, or maybe the emails leaked, and then he followed up with a post, which we do have, and we'll show you. We'll also link that in the show notes. This is a picture of Sue, his significant other, posing next to a doll. Sklansky actually posted this photo, so it's not like this is something that we drudged up from the depths. He was very forward about it in his 2+2 post that ultimately got deleted, basically giving a breakdown of the issues that she has physically, etc., but also corroborating that she is mentally well and has an IQ of 125, and her mother is very well aware of their relationship and is happy about it, things of that nature. He just didn't really seem to be ashamed of much. From there, more emails start to come to leak, and more Sklansky defense posts start to come out on 2+2. So the next post, I kind of fragmented a few quotes, but I don't know if this was right after she killed herself or right before. I'm guessing it was right after, based on the first sentence of "with her blackmail weapon now gone, I can explain." But basically, he said he was very frank with her from the beginning and said that he would hit on her just like Captain Tom did. And that she replied, the only thing she disliked about Captain Tom was that he was sneaky. Had he asked to be a sugar daddy, she would have went for it. He said, I took that to be an offer, which I reluctantly refused. But we did occasionally get flirtatious and slightly naughty. I once grabbed a vibrator out of my glove compartment and put it between her legs. If that disgusted her, she never mentioned it. When I would visit, she would often lay in my lap, and she was flirtatious with Sue also. Sue hoped I would bring her home, basically insinuating that he was hoping or she was hoping to have a threesome. From there, it goes on to kind of talk about a little bit more of their exchanges, I guess. He had mentioned to like that like the Captain's Tom story was like totally dismissible. Like she should have expected a tit for tat relationship in that scenario. And now this catches us up to after the break when they re-engaged. He said, I lectured her a lot. When I got to LA last month, I had some phone conversations with Brandi, and one of them I mentioned that I hate it when girls shave completely. She surprised me by saying that she was just the opposite and volunteered to come to my room and prove it in bikini panties. We didn't get around to that. The next day I met her for dinner with 2 friends, and she acted like a bitch towards me. Trivial stuff, but completely uncalled for. Given the help that I had recently given her, it was part of the reason I cut my trip short, but we still remained somewhat friendly. So effectively, he kind of like exposed his kinks to her. She played on that and tried to leverage it. You know, this is a point in time where it seems as though she's getting pretty desperate. As best I can tell, this is right around that January 2008 timeline, after she had stolen from her boyfriend and liquidated all of his stuff. The follow-up then was, a couple days had gone by and Brandi was playing again, said she had a windfall of money and was playing on her own, didn't need Sklansky's money, yada, yada, yada. And he goes, okay, that's fine, but like, where are the pictures? Had she said it made her feel uncomfortable or that she didn't have time or some such thing, that would have been okay. Instead, she wrote, I told you that I would send it, but I didn't say when. What? She's treating me like a sucker. What did I do to deserve that? That set me off to write the other emails that you may have read. And when I use the expression, well, that's not important. You'll understand when you read the other emails. But basically, that leads us into the next exposed email that Brandi published. And this one's pretty dark. This is basically just a 4 or 5 paragraph threat that Sklansky sends to Brandi, basically saying, like, Sue is the most important person in the world to him, and that he doesn't want her being brought into this, and that should Brandi choose to bring her into it anyway, effectively there will be hell to pay. He threatened her, basically saying like that he knows people who have friends that do nasty things at the blink of an eye, drive-by shootings, etc. To do something like throw paint on one of your good dresses would be nothing to them. Perhaps it might even be worse, like acid to the face. Basically saying like, I would never want them to do that, but you know those guys, they might just do it to make me happy. That type of stuff. Or just to please me. That's what he meant by the please me thing. Asking nothing in return. They might even think I'd like it better if it was right there. Sorry. The reason I'm telling you this is not because there is something you could do to change things. There's nothing you can do either for me or to me. No, the reason I'm telling you is because the anticipation of wondering what will happen is at least as bad as the act itself. You proved that to me when you put me through the anguish of worrying about Sue. Basically, the only option available is to leave the poker world forever, ply your trade elsewhere. Suicide wouldn't be a bad option either. If you do that, I promise to stop bad-mouthing you. This was 1 month prior to her actually committing suicide. So ultimately, the relationship comes to a head. It seems as though Brandi was in a pretty dark place without many outs. A little bit about her backstory that I was able to find both from Brandon's account as well as her biological mother's account was that she was I think she was abducted by her stepmother and her biological father, who abused her as a child and basically even abused her into death. According to her mother's account, which I found on Facebook, it effectively said something to the it was very long and rambly, but something to the effect of After she killed herself, her father didn't even let her biological mother know, and they like left her in the coroner's office for weeks, and then faked the death certificate in order to get her final possessions. There was also like not necessarily a suicide note, but I think she wrote like a poem or a song and sent it to her best friend, and referenced a lot of the bullying tactics from her stepmother.
I think we have a frozen Berkey. All right, so
This shit is wild.
the girl commits suicide after Sklansky
In said thread, and
is
then
back. Sorry, Berkey, we lost you there for a second. I tried to fill in for what you
I
were
heard.
saying.
Yeah, so effectively, like when it's all said and done, everything boiled over. She seemed to have no other recourse. Ultimately, hung herself, and the tragedy is what it is. The big reason why I wanted to tell this story isn't because I wanted to shine a light on who may or may not be at fault, or even for the aspect of trying to portray Brandi as something that she wasn't. I think it's more so just like fascinating watching this all unfold before our eyes in a public eye. And it kind of correlates very closely to a lot of what we see today in the fishbowl that has become both reality TV and social media. It's disturbing, man.
Berkey, I want to go back to that photo. Andre, can you pull up that photo with Sklansky like pinning her to the wall? Like, this is a really disturbing photo.
It's actually interesting you're bringing this photo up, because I feel like reading that last post that he said was essentially backing her into a corner, like completely, where he said, there's nothing you can do about this. There's nothing you can say. There will be these people who, in order to please me, will do stuff like drive-by shootings or throwing acid on you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And suicide would be a good option. I mean, it sort of is really, not that she was innocent, but I mean, this is a guy who had a name after this, who was referred to as a like in many articles, the father of poker strategy, stuff like that.
Right.
Where sure, somebody can be good at poker strategy and also be a terrible person behind closed doors, but the fact that this never even stained his reputation at all, and he's basically backing this girl who there was an imbalance in power dynamics. Clearly this is something this guy likes. He likes having the upper hand. He's housing and, being a significant other to somebody who's physically and mentally disabled. He gets off on these imbalanced
can we
power
pull up
dynamics.
that photo with the doll?
I mean, forget
And-
staying his reputation.
wow.
Like, he should be in jail for this.
Yes, and the fact that the thing that made him angry, clearly, is that he felt like she got one over on him. I didn't get my end of the deal. She got one over on me, therefore she should die, sort of thing. This guy clearly he wants to have the upper hand in all of his dealings with women.
Yeah, I mean, I felt same thing as you with like when we started digging this story up, and I was like, wait a second, like I didn't know any of this. I've been around 15 years playing professional poker. I know Sklansky as like super clean rep, owner of 2+2, the biggest forum we've ever seen. Like, this was super swept under the rug. I had no idea. Like, and how I look at it is like there were signs, right? Like him posting the photo with the doll with Sue. I look at that and I'm like, do you think this is like a sign of thinking that what you're doing is normal? Like this isn't a normal situation where you're portraying the world. Like it's odd that he chose to put that photo to make it seem like what he was doing was correct or normal, or guys, don't worry, like we're good. Like look at this photo with a doll. Like that seemed pretty odd to me. And then the photo with like him pinning her to the wall. This is like there was definitely clear signs of like something's up here. This might not end well. Like what are we gonna do? And then like I guess no one wanted to get in that because like at the same time, like what you're saying, maybe Sklansky was someone not to be messed with at the time. Like it was like, like I don't know. So
it's people like, but that happens a lot, right? When, like you said, he posts this picture and it's like people that are narcissistic like that, they don't and have this power or that mindset that they do things like that, right? Where they don't think that there's anything wrong with that.
And we don't know Sklansky's side of the story, right?
No,
so
right.
It's important for us to remember that we're looking at
Well,
it.
we kind of do.
We see an
No,
email.
we do know his. Yeah, that's fair.
Right.
That's fair.
And he's corroborated.
These aren't just emails, right? Like he actually, a lot of these are follow-up posts, like explaining his position of it all. And that final one that I just showed you, where he was addressing the emails and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure that was right after her death, based off of him saying now she doesn't have any leverage over me. So there's a lot that I cut out of that email, but essentially he started off by saying, once she made it clear that she was going to bring Sue into this, I went into damage control mode and I did everything that she asked in order to keep her at bay, including, giving her money and trying to fulfill her wishes of getting posts unbanned and things of that nature. I think, as far as like him being so forthright with taking ownership of all this, I think that like that is very reflective of a mindset and culture where he doesn't think he did anything wrong, right? And I don't think it's that far removed from kind of a liberal mindset when it comes to like kink culture and things of that nature. Being in Vegas, probably the majority of his days, I think that like the idea of a transactional relationship that's tit for tat when it comes to a young, beautiful woman in an industry that he has clout and power in, probably just made a lot of sense to him. And as far as these other guys like Newhouse and Brandon, like, man, do I understand that element. Like the type of girls that are so dangerous are the ones that make you feel needed, but ultimately are looking for a transaction. And the type of person that falls victim to that is somebody who wants to be generally helpful. Like that's just their natural nature, or that's just their nature, right? Whether it's with a significant other or just a stranger or whatever the case may be, like they're now susceptible to somebody who's looking for a transactional relationship because they don't operate transactionally, right? They cooperate. And I could just see, and granted, like, a lot of Newhouse's posts were very inflammatory because he was just very hurt and angry as far as I could tell. But it's like, I could see that. It's like, I know girls like that. I know women like that in this industry. I've dated women like that in my past. It's just like, I completely understand. And to some degree, my mother was like that, right? It's like, she did everything she could to survive, having no means to an end on her own. So it's like, that level of manipulation is very terrifying or very exploitative, I should say. And somebody like Sklansky, who seems to be extremely exploitative in his own right, probably just sees it as a mutual exchange, right? Until she got the best of him, like Melissa said.
I don't know, man. Like, what takeaways? What takeaways do we have? Does this change the view of Sklansky? I mean, it changes my view of Sklansky. Like,
well, I knew all this. Like, I watched this unfold on the 2+2 forums in 2006. I didn't remember it to this grade of detail because, this happened over an 18-month period. And you're talking about, like, the tea dropping, like, once every few weeks. And I wasn't that engulfed in the online forums to have kept up. But when I remember moving to Vegas and seeing Sklansky for the first time at Bellagio, like 2009, 2010, and just thinking, like, this is such a withered, washed up old man type of mentality based off of some of the details that were leaked here. But I also just think that, like, there is a cultural underbelly that thinks that this is okay, right? Like, there's a certain level of high status men, whether it's through wealth or clout, that look for subordinate women who are in trouble, and they can leverage whatever assets they have in order to get an exchange that they're looking for. And I think for a lot of guys, that don't really hold themselves in high regard otherwise, that's a means to an end. You know, it's totally fine. And we've come a long way since '06, right? Like, this isn't that far removed from the Harvey Weinstein stuff in the Me Too movement. You know, this isn't all that different from Trumpian behavior where everybody involved is expecting quid pro quo. You know, we still hear under or grumblings of this type of stuff happening, and there's more and more being exposed every single day. But this is a tale as old as time. Pretty girl leverages looks to find a way to advance. Power hungry man leverages clout and money in order to get what he wants, and then ultimately, when that fails, seeks vengeance in some way, shape, or form.
I mean, I'm completely convinced that happened 5 years later. Oh, sorry.
At least.
I don't think you can be imprisoned for cyberbullying.
I mean, she committed suicide though.
She committed
Is
suicide.
that-
It would
is
be
there-
like
That's
Has there
something,
been cases
for sure.
like?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean,
if-
I think he could definitely. It could be argued that there was some sort of
At-
stuff there that could be
at the bare
he
minimum,
could
there
be
would be
indicted
there would
for.
be civil cases.
just
against
that
him for
one
sure.
email is enough to
Yeah.
charge him with
Yeah,
something like
that's
this.
true.
I'm
Yeah.
looking on the internet right now and just looking at other cyberbullying cases, and it's absurd.
There was
It's like,
one.
What was the Rutgers case? You
There
know
was-
the Rutgers case?
they showed videos for that.
Okay.
Like they showed sex videos for that.
Oh, okay.
There was
So-
one where either I don't know who did it to who. Either a girl, I think it was a girl, told a boy in college to kill himself.
Oh yeah, I feel like that was in New
and
Hampshire.
he did.
Yeah.
And then she was tried for it. So yeah, I think if this had happened later with all this stuff on the internet,
I'm
there's
looking
no
at for
way
one
he
from
would.
2013 in Florida, where a 12-year-old girl was, basically just talking shit on the internet.
Yeah, this
and,
one, Michelle Carter.
Yeah, and she was charged with cyberbullying after the child
Right.
committed suicide.
Involuntary.
Yeah, I mean, this
manslaughter.
is way before cancel culture that this took place. But even catching up to current day, I guess, like, I'm just astonished at the lack of ripple effect. I mean, this was covered intently. As far as I can tell by everything that was deleted, this was very, very, very well publicized in 2006 through 2008. But it
Right.
also appears, because 2+2 was the #1 media forum in all of poker at that time, it seems as though Sklansky had some sort of leverage or pull to not have this become mainstream media. So I couldn't find anything on Poker News covering this. I couldn't find anything in Card Player covering this.
I mean, just so much
the
clout.
major media outlets at the time, right?
He just has so much clout, so much pull. Like his network between his company and the people he knew was just probably massive, right? Like there were. I remember just like reading the article. It was like Dole Brunson like helped this girl out. Like, it was just like everyone had a piece of this, like either directly or indirectly. And it's like Sklansky saying like, "Hey, we need this to go away." I'm sure between his friends and friends of friends, like it just went away.
So when
It's
he posted,
truly remarkable.
when he was posting like these stories on 2+2, this was before she committed suicide.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
'Cause
only the last post I
Yeah.
believe was posted.
I mean, that would make sense. Like, he's posting all this stuff, and then she actually does commit suicide. Then he wants to sweep it under the rug, right? Is that kind
Correct,
of what,
yeah.
what happened? Because he was like, why would he be so open about it, and then all of a sudden decide to sweep it under
And
the rug?
that
But
last
obviously-
email that we saw was in March, and she committed suicide in April.
So then he's probably like, oh shit, I need to get rid of all
Like all
this.
these websites
just-
and all the poker websites, all the books, everything, they all advertised on 2+2. So, and I'm sure that had direct correlation with like how much business you had, because everyone's main poker site at the time was 2+2. Every book that was published in poker was published by 2+2. That didn't change for many, many years. So it's like being blackballed by 2+2 probably had a very negative effect on your business. So when Sklansky's saying like, "Hey, we need to get this under the rug. You'll be on my good side. We'll do business together." Probably something that many people said, "Okay, like no problem," and that's the problem.
It seems insane to me that an email could be published written by David Sklansky that ends with saying, if you commit suicide, I'll never badmouth you again. And then she kills herself, and not one major media outlet picked it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Absurd.
that is absurd.
I think today it would be a different story.
For
Do you
sure.
think that it was a time period thing, maybe? Less of
I'm
that
not
in
sure.
the news
Like,
back then?
I'm not even talking about poker news, right? Like,
Yeah, he's talking about
how
straight up.
how is
Yeah.
this not a national story? Right? Like, how is Dateline not interested in this?
I'll talk to Keith
I guess
Morrison.
there's no crime.
I mean, but there might be a crime.
I wouldn't go too far and say that. Like that email just alone is pretty close to a crime.
By today's standards, but not by 06, 07,
Yeah.
08. So I guess my point is, like, nobody was going to be indicted over this, but and maybe that makes it a lesser story for the time frame. But this is a Netflix series in the making.
I wanna know what the statute of limitations is.
I was gonna ask that. Like, what? Yeah, what?
I mean, it was
what's
so
the statute
long
of
ago, I don't
limitation
know.
kind of?
It's 15 years now.
So what is there? Do we see this as relevant to some stuff that we're seeing today? Because I think I do.
that's what the comment section wants us to talk
Yeah.
about. So
Why are we
bad.
talking about this now? I
I
mean, the reason
know.
why we even dove into it is because it's been brought up so much in relation to the Poker Bunny stuff and people saying, I hope this ends differently. And I think that the way that we're seeing her get cyberbullied a lot is very akin to a lot of the cyberbullying that Brandi was receiving on 2+2 back then.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want. I was hoping we didn't go there, but I guess we opened the can of worms anyway. So, but I think that they're definitely different cases, but I do think there are similarities in the bullying part of it, and I think we will have to be careful with the way we handle people on the internet, just straight up all these like live streams, like. So yes, I think that part is something we have to address as a community. Just the bullying part, yeah, for sure.
And the cyberbullying today it's tenfold as
Yeah.
worse. It's so like, yeah, I mean, like, it's bad then, right? You had 2+2, but like now, like, if you're getting bullied on the internet, you can't get away from it. You can't get
Yeah.
away. Like, it's not like, oh, you got bullied at school and you can go home
Close the
and just kind of
computer, like-
decompress.
But it's
Now it's
different, though.
everywhere,
All
right?
online.
Yeah,
It's
but
on
so-
every social
Hold
media.
on, it's so different though because it's like, so Brandi didn't opt into it, right? Brandi
No, she did.
But she didn't opt
She did.
into people talking like this. Like yeah,
Yes,
she
she
did
did.
certain things, but she wasn't like going on a live stream and
I mean,
like
she-
it's
but
way
it
different.
was
She
a
was the
2005
most
live
frequent
stream.
poster on 2+2 during that time frame.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like,
fair, yeah.
I don't mean by sheer volume, but I mean by sheer attention. Like, yes, she opted in. She got 600,000 hits on her first
Yeah.
thread, and it was like drugs in a vein. Like, the posts that still remain demonstrate like how open and active she was with the drama in her life, because the posts that still remain are largely innocuous, right? Like, they're just like a tale of a weekend trip to LA where she watched Neverwin dust off $100,000 while he owed like $500,000 to the poker. So she was just like giving the tea 24/7. It was absolutely invited. It just didn't have the same lens that shining a camera in someone's face does.
Right. Yeah, it's a little. Yeah, it was in written form rather than video form.
Right.
Right.
Right. And yeah, it's, she sought out the media too whenever she was playing. So, it's, there are a lot of parallels. Like, you guys aren't wrong. The ability to turn on a camera and engage with 10,000 followers on Instagram immediately is akin to being able to fire up a blog post and just have an emotional outpour. But the response is always certain to be divisive. And the more polarizing of a figure you are, the less you're going to hear from the positive side and the more you're going to hear from the vocal minority, right?
That's
So in instances like Poker Bunny, sure, she'll get some public support because of how much piling on takes place, but the piling on is always going to be the consistent thing you can guarantee when you put yourself open to scrutiny like that and you don't lead with your best foot forward, right? I think that that's where it's really critical to curate a separate public image from a private one. Like as open and as vulnerable as I may appear to be in the public eye, there's a canyon separating my public persona from my private. Like
Very
you guys
true.
know things about me. Yeah. Yeah, you know.
He's really way more goofy than he seems. I thought he was like this boring, like old guy. Turns out he's just like a huge goofball.
But the food
He's a
stuff
boring
is
old
real.
goofball.
The food stuff
The
is
stu-
the
the
food
food
stuff
stuff
is
is real.
absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's really boring.
only
Boring old
beige foods,
goofball.
but
Yeah, but the goofy part is all right.
yeah.
And like, yeah, that's cool, Berkey. you
Yeah.
know?
There's just like a big aspect.
And they'll never
that
know
I
about the
protect.
women, Berkey. Don't worry.
The what? In the basement.
Look,
Jesus.
they're not doing me any favors. There's just like, there's a big part of myself that's only meant for my close, intimate relationships, right? And everybody who grows up in this social media era needs to be very particular about the image that they curate. And I think for the younger generation, that's a little bit lost because of how much glory and accolades and attention there is in just oversharing, basically, right? And I think that's where the demise comes from, because when you're under that constant microscope, you're gonna fuck up. Everybody fucks up, but the magnitude by which you feel like the fuck up occurs is 1,000-fold, maybe. And it's really difficult to recover from that because, again, life is very variable in nature. Like every decision we make has thousands and thousands of iterations of outcomes that could possibly happen. And if we even make it the slightest of error, the range of outcomes is going to vary. And the more negative they are, the more impactful it feels to us in that exact moment. Well, when you have tens of thousands of eyes scrutinizing that mistake, now it just blows up, right? And this is where I think we start to see a lot of this tumultuous behavior and a lot of characters both develop and fall in the public eye like that. It's worrisome. Like,
Well, I think especially
I was-
nowadays.
But
like,
imagine
people
sorry.
are becoming famous really young now, like even when they're teenagers, like on TikTok or on Instagram, and people are garnering platforms where people are all telling them what they are before they even have a sense of self today. And maybe that was somewhat true back then too, but I think that today, like having a sense of self to be grounded in is probably close to a life or death type of thing if you're going to have a platform today, because otherwise you are reliant on the opinions of all these strangers and that's what you are basing your self-worth and like your sense of self on, and that's just a recipe for disaster because the mob can turn at any point.
The mob can definitely
quickly.
turn at any point. For sure. They'll like you one day and then you're not like the next day. And I still can't get over the Sklansky thing. Like, what are our closing thoughts on Sklansky?
I want to look up the statute of limitations.
I don't even want to say what I'd like to do to him
Okay.
because I will be indicted.
it's not growing a full bush and sending a panty
Definitely
bag.
not. Definitely not. Hey, I'm not going to yuck his yum. If he likes pubes, he likes pubes. But I would just
He likes the pubes on the side, like,
Sticking out barely.
Yeah, it has to stick out.
Like
I'm
the
just
things
saying.
that he's written, and it's just, man, I just think jail immediately.
Go to jail.
It does have very eerie undertones of the Sandusky incident at Penn State, less the actual raping element. But I mean more so from like the cover-up standpoint. Like it just feels like there's so much more to this story than meets the eye. But maybe not. Maybe it's much ado about nothing. Maybe he
The
was
internet,
just very
Berkey, the
transparent
internet is
about-
awesome though. The internet, if there is more to the story that
Berkey
people
will
want
find
to
it. The internet will
share
find it.
with
Berkey will find
us,
it.
Oh, the people will share it with
The
us.
people
that's
The true
want to
crime
share with
YouTube
us.
community.
please
catch
reach
on to
out
this.
because I the scary part about this entire story that while we were in pre-production is that this is the part that we were able to uncover within a week, right? Online, not professional journalist, but if the internet gets on this again, reopens this cold case, I think we might find some real stuff.
Yeah.
Poker's got a lot of skeletons in his closet, man. I think that there are a lot of guys that are 20 and 30 years my senior that grew up in this game in a very unruly time that feel like they've gotten past their past effectively. And I got to tell you, I can only begin to imagine how many bodies are buried out there that people don't want to uncover. I mean, just like the casual stories that I've heard in the big game, these aren't even scandalous. They're just like wild to consider. Like Baldwin telling me about underground games that he played in Texas back in the day where people were just like getting shot. Like it was just a common thing. Like not common as in it happened dozens of times, but like he has more than one story where somebody brandished a weapon mid-game because they took a beat. Can you imagine?
I mean,
It was like the Wild West.
I was there.
Yeah.
I've seen it before.
Yeah, that's true.
We slandering somebody?
All right.
Yeah, well, there's just one person that's saying that this is defamation. I don't think it is because we're just putting out the facts of what was presented allegedly in what he wrote, and we're allowed to have opinions on that.
He wrote it.
He did write it. Those are his words.
Yeah, facts.
My man
True
wrote
story.
it.
For anybody who wants to double check our facts, I'll share the links in the bio. You guys are welcome to just kind of poke around yourself, see what you come up with.
Man,
I found this to be fascinating.
Berkey?
I don't know. What?
The people are asking for other stories. They want the Matt Mafriotti story. They want...
I can't even begin. Honestly, the Marafiotti thing, I was a lot closer to. Like, I knew him well. Not
Bro,
well,
he
but,
jumped.
Like, I played with him a bunch.
He jumped from the building.
What?
Well, I don't know. He jumped from a building that was like literally 5 blocks from my house in Jersey. Like, I was in Jersey when he literally jumped from the building. Pretty nuts.
Yeah, that's scary.
I mean, there could be a whole
super
like
scary.
mini series about scandals and true crime stuff that's happened within poker as an insulated
People want the
community.
Lauren
It's pretty
Kling
wild.
and Matt Mafriotti.
It sounds like every Thursday.
Yo,
Every Thursday.
that is...
That was a
That's
wild
actually-
one, man. I remember that story. Like, I
Yo,
remember
that's
that.
actually a funny one.
Listen,
All right,
so
I'm gonna
next
tell that one-
Thursday,
No, I'll
Is
tell
that
that
what
one
it
real
is?
quick because it's funny. I'll tell that one real quick because it's funny. I'm not going to go into all the detail of their relationship. And also, like, I'll be respectful because I like Lauren. She's a good person, as far as I can tell. But I was playing 10-20-40. This must have been like 2013 during the World Series. And I remember it was like me, Hafizzle, and a few other regs. And we're just like grinding. We're all kind of bored. We're just getting ready to wrap a session before we go to bed. And I had a day 2 the next day. And I just remember Hafizzle like jumping out of his seat with his hands on his head, like, yo, you guys have, like, he's scrolling the Facebook feed in real time of Marafiotti, who is just defaming Lauren Kling, who was currently his girlfriend at the time.
yeah.
Basically, like, telling her that that she stole from him and like all this other stuff. And then it takes this turn where he just starts to talk about like basically like embarrassing sexual acts and things of that nature, like grooming and stuff like that. It was just like, it was hilarious on one hand because he's so fucking unhinged and it's happening in the public eye, but also like you can't help but like have a little sense of empathy and sympathy for both him, his family, and then more importantly Lauren, who was like pretty beloved by everybody in the community. It's just like, Jesus Christ, how is this happening publicly? That was like my first real exposure to social media just amplifying like a public breakup, so to speak.
So Thursday?
Nah.
What you mean?
I don't know.
The people are
Maybe
asking
we
for
make
more
this-
stories. They want the deep dives. Thursday
There's a lot.
deep dive.
There's a lot. The Marafiotti one's nuts. I saw him like
A lot of
a
people are
couple years
saying. A
prior
lot of
to
people
his
are
death.
saying in the chat. A lot of people are saying it wasn't no suicide. It was something else.
Yeah, that's
If it was
I don't
something
think
else,
that-
I don't want to touch it.
Yeah, I don't want to
I
touch
don't
that.
touch it. For real. For real.
I mean, he wasn't well. He definitely was not well. I saw him a couple years prior to his death, and like he was just talking sheer and utter madness. Like he cornered me in a bathroom. I remember I went to the bathroom during the big game, and he was like playing 2-5 at Aria, and he must have saw me walk in, and he like literally corners me in there, and starts telling me about the Illuminati and how Drake has like a hitman out after him, and I'm just like, bro, I cannot do this right now. I'm buried.
Yeah, Drake be in Aria sometimes. I saw a couple posts of him at the roulette table.
Yeah, Pat said he wasn't sure about his roulette strategy.
Yeah. The roulette strategy is a little suspect. All right.
But yeah, maybe we'll dig into some other stories. Leave a comment below if this is something you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like on your way out. We appreciate all the support. I don't know how I feel about this, man. I just know that there are eerie parallels between this story. Like it just feels like
history tends to repeat itself. That's what you're scared of.
Well, I don't even think tends to, right? Like I'm sure it wouldn't take much digging to think of other situations where this happened. Like I can think off the top of my head 7 or 8 guys from poker who committed suicide. And I imagine some elements of their story parallel to Brandi's, right? And it's like, yeah, I don't know that it's our job as a community to do better, but this is a community that kind of like lends itself to the unhinged, and it's scary because the spiral is rapid and deep, and there's no vetting process for getting into this community. Like if you have a past gambling problem, nobody's going to stop you from playing poker. And that's what furthers that narrative of poker being this degenerate game where you can lose a house, and like all of our family members at some point in time were just like, I don't want you playing that game. You're gonna ruin your life, and you have a degree, and I don't want you living off the street sucking dick for a buy-in type of stuff. It's like it happens. It's a stereotype, and it's not a very true one, but it does happen at some frequency, and that's kind of horrifying to think of.
Melissa, closing thoughts?
What's the implication there that
Closing
you turned
thoughts?
to me after that statement?
No, not
No. Closing thoughts are, I think I'm glad we did this. I think it's very interesting and important to probably highlight. I sure didn't know about it before diving into this. And this is definitely the type of story that is covered in other industries. So why not show it? It happens in ours too.
Connie?
At the moment, I'm asking the only DA I know if there is a statute of limitations on suicide by cyberbullying. So we're gonna,
Our hood lawyer.
We're
Yeah,
gonna
that's the hood
lawyer.
lawyer.
Sklansky, I'm after you, man. I'm telling you, I'm on that ass.
Watch out.
All right, Berkey, take us away.
All right, guys, that's going to be a wrap for today. I am still in Pennsylvania. I'm going to be hopping on the live stream immediately after this, so please stick around. I'm going to be playing a 320 PKO. I've never really played a PKO. I've literally played one in my life, so it should be a real shit show. I'll be playing cash there as well. If you're in the PA area, come play with me. I'm giving away $55 face tickets to BetMGM's 525 75K guarantee. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to check out Poker Out Loud. The newest episode is out this past Monday. And finally, we are doing an academy at the end of April. It's going to be the 27th through the 30th. Right now, we have 1 seat remaining. We're going to open up a second set of 9. So that'll be from the 26th to the 29th. We'll just be staggering the days. I've broken this down a bunch, but basically day 1 will be game theory, all the basic principles you need to understand, as well as sizing, board textures, formations, and pre-flop range construction. Day 2 will be 8 full hours of Poker Out Loud play, where you'll be speaking your strategy out loud every time it's your decision to make an action in a hand. Day 3 will go deeper into theory, talking more granular about c-bet strategies, flop, turn, and river strategies. Day 4, again, you'll get another full day of Poker Out Loud. And our hopes are that this will become a pretty unique study tool moving forward, since it's rather objective and you have all the information available to actually calibrate your sims to the parameters that both your strategy and your opponents are adhering to. Otherwise, that's a wrap for us. We have a pretty loose show tomorrow, so be sure to join us. Brian's gonna bring us in some barbecue to try, and we're gonna shoot the shit about some of the other things that are going on in the world, such as NFL trades, March Madness, and Melissa's Tinder life. I think is going to be the main.
What
topic
Tinder
tomorrow.
life?
Can we do a deep dive
Can
on
we-
your Tinder life?
Can we just clarify? I'm literally like live the life of an old woman. I've not been on a date or seen a person romantically in like a year.
So you heard it here first. She's
I'm
looking for a
live.
date this
Nope.
weekend.
I got a chastity belt on. You're gonna need the jaws of life to pry this thing off.
Your DMs are about to flood like a basement.
Can we
know what?
read your DMs after this
Yeah,
weekend?
we can
after
read
this?
some DMs.
No, but like the ones you.
No.
No, but I am actually
yeah.
We
curious.
sent one to Andre. We told him to blur it out, and he said, "I quit."
Listen, I am curious if the people do want us to do these Thursday deep dives, for them to leave a comment below on what topic or who they might be interested in us researching. We have a week to look at it. We're going to look at the comments, maybe pick one, and it might be yours next week. I'm excited.
Deep dive into
Conrad is like
ideas.
ready. Conrad was built for this.
Yo, give me a week on something like this, please.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
All right,
Double
guys,
check his
that's
facts,
going to
though.
do it for us. Please stay tuned for my live poker stream. We appreciate the support. Smash that like button. Please hit that bell and subscribe. We're here 5 days a week, bringing you all the news, notes, and gossip that we can from the poker world and all the other areas that we're interested in. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. That's a wrap.
I wonder what Doyle.
dig?
I wonder what's in the Doyle's little closet.
Yo, I don't want to know.